Ahoy there, Chummers, and welcome to the Sixth World. And today we're going to do something just a little bit different than my usual content. Instead of doing a TTRPG book review or talking about TTRPGs in general, that sort of thing, we are going to do a novel review, which is not something that I have done on this channel before, but it's something that I've wanted to do. It's going to be the exact same format as all of my other RPG book reviews. It's going to be off the cuff and really just me giving my ramblings and musings on the product to help you maybe make a better informed choice on where to spend your hard-earned hobby dollars, especially in today's economy. So the first novel that we are taking a look at in this review, I don't want to call it a review series because it's not really gonna be a series. It's just something that I'm gonna do every now and again. So anyway, the first book that we're gonna take a look at is going to be from the Land and Sea series of books by Blaine Pardoe. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with what Land and Sea is or who Blaine Pardoe is, let me just let you know who Blaine Pardoe is. Blaine Pardoe is a former Battletech author. He was fired by Catalyst for his political beliefs. I'm not going to get into that here because that is a discussion for another time, another place, another channel. But he essentially wrote a lot of classic Battletech fiction, helped build the universe. He wrote a lot of source books. The Comstar source book that I reviewed a while back is something that was written by Blaine Pardoe. I believe he also did TRO 3025 or 3026. One of those two as well, or maybe both. I don't know. He did a lot of stuff with Battletech. Basically helped build the universe. And now he and another Battletech alum, Brent Evans, are working on a series called Land and Sea. And what Land and Sea is there's 6 books out for Land and Sea. But what it is it is essentially, in a nutshell, giant robots fighting aliens on Earth. There's more to it than that, of course, but basically the basic story of the trilogy is the Earth is invaded by aliens that are coming from the ocean. They landed in the ocean, built their forces up, and now they're attacking humanity, and it is humanity's response to that global invasion. And I think it's actually a pretty realistic response that we might actually see if that sort of thing actually happened. I don't want to say that it's hard science fiction because I don't know really how hard the science is behind it, but it's more grounded science fiction. And yes, there are giant stompy robots in it. So like I said, there are 6 books that are out. I have read the first 3, very, very good series of books. But what we're going to talk about today is we are going to talk about book 4 because that is the most recent book that I've read of the Land and Sea trilogy. The other 3 books, it's been a while since I've read them, and I haven't read book 5 or 6 yet. So I'm going to read books 5 and 6 and probably do reviews on those books as well. And then I'm going to go back and reread books 1 through 3 because, again, they are very good. And I'm going to do reviews on those books as well. So yeah, we're going to have a bunch of Land and Sea reviews coming pretty shortly. Well, maybe not pretty short. It's going to be a little bit. Figured it'd be a good time to do that since there is a Land and Sea tabletop game in the works as well as a TTRPG in the works as well. Both of those, which I will definitely be taking a look at on the channel when they are finally released. There's some good stuff coming with those, I think. So anyway, let's get to it and let's talk about Land and Sea Book 4, Flotsam of War, a Land and Sea anthology. So looking at Amazon and the description of the Land and Sea and of the Flotsam of War, a Land and Sea anthology. The description says, humanity is under attack, alien creatures from the ocean's depths have risen to assault every corner of the earth, and all of mankind is pressed into the fight in some capacity. For war is not just about Asher pilots. The Ashers are what the mechs are called. They're called Asher rigs. It's an acronym. It's explained in the first book. Not going to get into it here, but that's what the giant stumpy robots are called in Land and Sea. Everyday citizens must gird themselves for a conflict unlike any other, fighting for their homes, fighting for their very right to survive. This anthology of short stories takes the listener to connect. This is from the. Forgot to add. This is from the audiobook. description. This anthology of short stories takes the listener to Connecticut, Boston, Guam, Savannah, Houston, San Francisco, Oregon, and overseas. Valiant tank crews, creative techs, brave officers, plucky drone operators, bold medics, cunning pararescue troops, determined Asher and Trident pilots. Trident is another form of battlesuit. And daring militia units wage war along every coastline in the U.S. New aliens and alien technology emerge from the chaos of battle as well. This anthology fills in some storylines and carries the war forward for fans of the series. So this book was obviously released in between books 3 and 5. Books 3 was I don't want to say it's a self-contained trilogy, but it was like the inaugural trilogy for Land and Sea. It built up It started just before the war began. It took you into the start of the war and a couple of weeks after. I think like 2 or 3 months after the start of the war. This series of books, there's a couple of stories that take place at the start of the war. There's one story that focuses on Guam, which was like the first attack from the aliens. Gives you a little bit more details as to that conflict. And then there's just the rest of the stories just kind of expand on the conflict now that, battle lines have been drawn. Humanity doesn't necessarily know what to expect with fighting the aliens because they are a constantly evolving enemy force. But battle lines are, for the most part, set at this point, and a lot of the fighting in a lot of cities has bogged down. So this just kind of expands on the universe and gives you another look at some of these concepts that were introduced in that first trilogy. So first and foremost, honest assessment of the book, because you all know that I always am honest. I also want to point out that I was not given this book. I bought this book on Amazon myself, so I was not given this book to review in any way, shape, or form. I'm not doing this to preserve any access or anything like that, or to gain any access or anything. As you all know, this is just me talking about what I like and what my thoughts on this book are. So, Flotsam of War it's a decent book. It is a bunch of short stories, so you're not going to have any sort of coherent narrative throughout the book. Some of the short stories, I'm not going to say they're bad, because none of the short stories presented in here are bad. There's just some that are not good. If that makes any sense. I would describe probably half of these short stories as mid. And there's a little blurb before each short story that kind of tells you a little bit about what the goal of the story is or what it's supposed to be expanding upon. Or in the case of one story, why it was cut from the original trilogy. And when you're reading it, you kind of understand why it was cut as well. It's something that really wouldn't have made a lot of sense in the grand scheme of the trilogy, and it kind of works a little bit as a standalone thing. It's just, I don't want to give away too many details because I don't want to give any spoilers or anything like that. But like I said, about 50% of these stories are good. You could skip this book, really. And that's especially what I've been told by a lot of people who have read the entire Land and Sea series, is you could actually skip this book if you wanted to. You wouldn't lose anything. It's not something that you have to read, but it is something if you want to gain a greater understanding of the world of Land and Sea. It is something that I think is... I think it's a good thing. It's good to read. And there are some very, very good stories in this book as well. There is a novella towards the end of the book that takes place in Boston that I thought was very good. There is also a story about a militia group. So in Land and Sea, something that shows up in the first trilogy is this concept of militia groups, which are just ordinary citizens fighting the aliens. And it's something that it becomes very important in the world of Land and Sea. It's these ordinary men and women getting together to kill some aliens. And there is one story in here about the Savannah Knights, which is a brand new militia unit that's formed in Georgia to fight the aliens. And it's very good. I enjoyed it. I want to hear more about the Savannah Knights. I'm hoping we see them more in the in later books, because the characters in the story were very engaging, very down to earth. It was very much normal people, just fighting in a situation that none of them thought they were going to be in ever, and fighting for their lives in that situation. So it was a very, very good short story. There's also another story in there which it basically is from the perspective of the technicians, some technicians that have to repair Asher suits, Asher rigs, after they go into combat and they get beaten up by the aliens, and the pilots bring them back and they have to get them into working order again. That was a very, very good story as well. So there's a lot of chaff in this book. There's some gems, and the gems that are there, I think, make the whole book worth it. But again, it's not a book that if you bought it, you wouldn't waste your money. It's definitely a good read. Again, there's some that are not great. There's some stories that are not great, but none of them are actually none of them are bad. I didn't feel like I didn't want to read any of them or anything like that. It kept the book kept me going. It kept me engaged, and I didn't feel like I wasted my time when I got to the end of it. And bonus, it made me excited for book 5, which I picked up Kindle Unlimited, so I could get the book, and I got a free trial. So yeah, that's why I did it. So anyway, final verdict for the first novel review on the channel: Land and Sea, Flotsam of War, a Land and Sea anthology. Should you get it? Yeah, I think you could get it. If you've got Kindle Unlimited, you could get it. I'm pretty sure it's on Kindle Unlimited. If not, it's like $5, $4 or $5. So on Amazon, not too expensive or anything like that. It's definitely worth your time, I think, to check it out, especially if you're a fan of Land and Sea. If you haven't read the first 3 books, the core concepts in this book are not going to make a whole lot of sense. So you do kind of have to have read the first 3 books, at least one of the first 3 books, to get some of the core concepts of this book. But otherwise, yeah, I think you could definitely pick it up. You could enjoy it, and it would definitely, you wouldn't feel like you wasted your money. You wouldn't feel like you wasted your time. You'd come away pretty satisfied with it. Especially, like I said, the novella that's at the end of the book, that's the last portion of the book. That is a very, very good story, and I'm hoping we see those characters again later on in the series. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and leave this video right here. This is the first novel review on the channel. Let me know what you thought about the review. Also, if you've read Flotsam of War or any of the books in the Land and Sea series, let me know what you thought about it, and leave a comment below. As always, if you want to support the channel, like and subscribe. Those will always help this channel out very much so. If you want to help the channel out more directly, Patreon and channel membership links are in the description below, as well as drive-through RPG links if you want to pick up some RPG swag. And I will see you all next time. And that's the chip truth, chummers. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more Shadowrun content. Hit that notification bell so you will always know when I upload a brand new Shadowrun video, and until next time, remember to shoot straight and never, ever deal with a dragon.